There are no words. She left and she didn't know this would be her last time.
Another terror attack in the West Bank. A Palestinian murders 2 of his colleagues in a recycling factory located in an area called an Isle of Coexistence. How should Israel respond without increasing the risk of renewed escalation? And tensions soar in the Gaza Strip. Thousands of Palestinians continue to protest along the border with Israel, but a Hamas leader says he's not interested in another confrontation. Is the Southern Front once again heating up towards all-out war? And the Netanyahu family's legal woes. Police question the prime minister for the 12th time in 2 bribery and fraud cases as his wife Sarah begins a separate trial. The allegations against her? Ordering hundreds of takeaway meals from some of Jerusalem's fanciest restaurants on taxpayers' expense. Joining me in studio to talk all this and more are members of the Israeli parliament, Merav Michaeli and Yehuda Glik. Then,
you don't hand matches to an arsonist, and you don't give power to an angry left-wing mob, and that's what they've become.
The U.S. Supreme Court gets Trumpified with Kavanaugh's appointment. The nation still reeling from one of the dirtiest political battles it has ever seen. How will this affect the midterm elections now less than a month away? We'll break it down with Professor Alan Dershowitz, The Washington Post's Aaron Blake, and The Guardian's Richard Wolff. We'll tackle all these stories head-on and expose the spin right here on The Spin Room.
From the I24 News Studios at the Port of Jaffa in Tel Aviv is host Ami Kaufman.
Thanks for joining us. We begin our show with the horrific attack yesterday in the West Bank settlement of Barkan, where Ziv Hajbi, age 35, and Kim Levengrund Yehezkel, age 29, were shot and killed by 23-year-old Palestinian Naif Nalwa in the recycling factory in which they all worked together in the Barkan settlement. The assailant handcuffed Levengrund Yehezkel before fatally shooting her. Joining me now are member of the Israeli ruling Likud party, Yehuda Glik, and member of the Zionist Union from the opposition, Merav Michaeli. Thank you both for coming on the show today. It's good to see you.
Thank you for having us.
Yehuda, I'll start with you. What's your reaction to the attack? You actually tweeted yesterday that this industrial zone is a symbol of coexistence.
It's an island of coexistence. I personally participated last night at Kim's funeral, a very, very sad funeral. A mother of a 1.5-year-old child, 28 years old. The island, the Barkan is like an island of coexistence, and for those who really believe that we can live here together, over 150 factories working there, hundreds and thousands of Palestinian mouths are fed every single day from there.
8,000 workers, apparently.
Okay, now the boycott on products from these settlements first harm those Palestinians that work there. And by the way, they work there on all levels, engineers, directors, and they receive the exact same social
compensation,
everything as the Israelis there, and therefore it's really very sad that something like that happened.
Merav Michaeli, your response to this attack?
First of all, it's heartbreaking. It's dreadful, and this is something that we should always fight. All kind of terror, doesn't matter, you know, how, what. This is something that we should never, never tolerate. As for the coexistence, I beg to differ. We are talking about citizens working with non-citizens. This is Israelis, mostly Jews, who have a state, with Palestinians who do not have an entity such as a state and do not have the same rights in the state of Israel, where they, under its laws, they're working as whatever workers they are working in this area or other places. This is a conflict that we cannot continue to live under the illusion that we can conduct.
Right.
We have to find a way to reach a solution.
I'm going to let you respond to that when we come back from our break, Yehuda Glik. When we come back, more on this attack with our guests and a rare interview given by the leader of Hamas in Gaza, claiming he's not looking for another war. Stay with us. We're back on the Spin Room with Merav Michaeli and Yehuda Glik, and we're still talking about the horrific attack yesterday in Barkan. And Merav, you brought up an issue that I want to continue. I want to get your response about this, Yehuda. And the trigger for that will be what a former director of Peace Now, Yariv Oppenheimer, tweeted, and this is what he said. There is no coexistence in the territories. There is a meeting of interests in the industrial zone. The settlers need workers, the Palestinians need income. There's no great love there. When there is no independent Palestinian state and economy, the average Palestinian doesn't have a choice other than to work for Israelis, a reality that produces these despicable murderers. What's your response to that?
Yariv and Merav.
And Merav.
And Merav always think that the Palestinians are those corrupt political Palestinian leaders. But those who meet Palestinians on a daily basis, and I've visited Barkan several times, these people enjoy working there, they love working there, and that their dream is to benefit from Israel. You know what? Ask any Israeli Arab, if there, God forbid, will be a Palestinian state, will you be willing to give up your Israeli citizenship and become part of your nation, the Palestinian state? Are you crazy? Most of the Palestinian citizens want to live and want to benefit from the modern Israeli state that we have.
Don't they want equality? Doesn't coexist? When
yes, they want equality.
Coexistence means that two people are equal in that place.
Coexistence means cooperation. Yes,
it means equality.
Yes, exactly, 100%.
There's equality.
Of course.
Can a Palestinian open a factory in Barkan?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Can a Palestinian open a factory in Barkan, Merav?
Yes.
No, listen,
they do.
It's a good thing you call this place the spin room, because what Yehuda is doing is really spinning this thing. It's either he wants to annex this territory and to grant all the 2 million Palestinians, 2.5 million, not the 8,000 who work in Barkan or at this area in general, the 2.5 million Palestinians, to grant them Israeli citizenship. Then I fear, unfortunately, that the Jewish nature of the state of Israel will be jeopardized, or what?
Right.
Or do not speak about coexistence, because it's not really the case. It is.
But they do get good salaries there.
But this is 8,000 people.
Yes.
What about the 2.5 million who are under Israeli rule,
So we need
held by the army under a war law, and this is something that's been going on over 50 years now, something that is not in the interest of the state of Israel, something that harms constantly the security of Israel and the Israelis, and should be found some solution for this ongoing situation for the Israeli interest.
Real quick response.
What we need is definitely many, many more Barkans. And yes, Merav Michaeli's party, Labour Party, they tried, they offered something, they had a solution. They brought us the Oslo. I have and by no means...
And as always, thanks to Oslo, there is the Palestinian Authority
by no means
that helps you not to have to pay yourself the social...
Merav, I didn't interrupt you. I tried not to interrupt you.
That's true.
I do not have any missing towards the bombings of restaurants and the suicide bombers on buses.
Stabbings and bombings all the time.
Yes, 10 a year compared to 200 a month. Merav, come on. 200 a month were killed in honor of your wonderful...
Okay, let Merav respond.
There was no peace plan. And we need more Barkans. We need more Barkans. That's what we need.
It's been, almost 3 decades since Oslo. They continue, and they've been in power ever since. And they continue to blame Oslo. Right. And they did not come up with a single different solution.
Okay.
That is the reality of things. We need to find a solution.
Let's move to our next topic. The leader of Hamas in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, told an Italian journalist in an interview published also in an Israeli newspaper that he does not want any more wars. He also said that ending the siege on the Strip would facilitate that. Meanwhile, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that Israel is preparing for the possibility of a military campaign in Gaza should the humanitarian conditions there worsen, especially after the halt of some $96 million that the Palestinian Authority sends monthly to the Strip. What's your reaction to this interview, Merav?
First of all, everybody and I've been a member of the Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee for the past 5.5 years since my first day in the Knesset. Everybody who follows what's happening with Hamas is not surprised to hear those things. Once again, what is Netanyahu's solution for Gaza?
Right.
It's true we left, but we are still in charge of the passages. We are still in charge of the borders. There is a humanitarian crisis growing in Gaza, something which the Israeli army has been warning us from as something destabilizing.
What are you suggesting? Lifting the siege?
No, I'm suggesting first and foremost to make sure that we, Israel and Israelis, do not suffer the backlash of a humanitarian crisis in Gaza, first and foremost.
But what are you suggesting? To do what? Now?
To make sure that this doesn't happen. What it means is to make sure that they have more electricity, more water. So first and foremost, we get it under control.
Okay.
Second thing is, my solution is to help the Palestinians reach a solution such that we can work towards, once again, a unified authority that we can reach a solution with. But the thing is that Netanyahu is not interested in that. And unfortunately, in what he does now is ends up encouraging Hamas against Abu Mazen and against the Israeli interests.
Netanyahu isn't interested?
Look, for some reason, Mirav thinks that the Israelis have a tendency of forgetting. 15 years ago, they promised us, look, there are 5,000 Jews living in Gaza and 1.5 million Palestinians. Let's uproot those Jews from there and we'll have Singapore of the Middle East.
Let's remember that Sharon did that, not someone from labor.
25% of Israel's agricultural export came from Gaza. We uprooted the settlements.
Right.
We raised investments of $10 billion for Gaza. All they had to do was to turn on the water, and the place would flourish.
And they didn't want to.
They used that money for tunnels, for missiles. That they don't want to live peacefully. They want to perpetuate the conflict.
Quick response.
And therefore, we cannot allow that to happen.
Hamas wants to perpetuate the conflict.
Yeah, that goes, unfortunately, and I completely agree that Hamas is not a peace seeker organization. But unfortunately, I do not see the Israeli government comes up with any better plan.
Right.
And the blame game takes us nowhere. That's all.
The blame game takes us nowhere. I want to move on to our next topic.
One stupid mistake can cause so much damage. For, a person can develop a Mercedes Jaguar, a super wonderful car, and one stupid driver can ruin the whole thing.
All right.
That's true.
The Israeli Prime Minister, Benjamin Netanyahu, on Friday was quizzed by police for a 12th time as a suspect in 2 separate bribery and fraud cases. And yesterday, the trial of his wife, Sarah, began, in which she's being accused of buying takeaway meals worth $100,000 of taxpayers' money from some of the best restaurants in Jerusalem. And despite all this, recent polls are sure to make the Prime Minister smile. Yehуда, although he hasn't been convicted of anything yet, or Sarah, his wife, don't all these investigations and trials now and throughout the years paint a very disconcerting picture of how the Netanyahus handle themselves?
The investigations, yes. And the investigations are really tiring us. And it doesn't seem like they're really leading to anywhere.
Right.
I give full support for whatever the police will find out. Meanwhile, we have a wonderful Prime Minister. He has a wonderful wife. And they're running the country, and Israel's achievements in the past few years is unbelievable. The $50,000 GDP and anything you put your finger, lower unemployment, and our security situation is the best it's been in years. And our relationship with the world is really on the top. And I want to say that we have a wonderful Prime Minister. If, God forbid, the investigations reach something, okay, I feel for some reason that really give me a break.
Mirav, I'll tell you what, it looks like the public agrees with Mr. Glik, if you believe the polls that was published yesterday by the Israel News Company, showing that not only does the Prime Minister, compared to the poll a few months ago, go up another 2 seats to 32 seats, your party, the Zionist Union, right now led by Avi Gabai, drops down from 24 to 12. What's going on?
Yeah, well, our position in the polls isn't fabulous, I have to agree, unfortunately, but we need to remember, that Netanyahu has 30 mandates. That's a quarter of the Knesset. That's not all the people of Israel. Also, there's an important distinction to make, and that is that the investigations are dealing with the Prime Minister, but the thing that the trial of the Prime Minister's wife is already an indictment. It's beyond. It's already an indictment.
Still not convicted.
No, but it's beyond investigations, and it's after hearings, and so.
And there have been trials before that the Prime Minister has been involved in, and not much has come out of it.
Listen, I will not make any statement about the procedure because it needs to take its course.
But don't these numbers show that the people maybe think that it's a witch hunt? Maybe that's why it's happening.
No, because and that is the important point. What I started saying is that I will not make a statement about the procedure because I believe that we should, all of us, help the public to trust those establishments.
Okay.
The legal system is extremely important for democracy, and especially, of course, in Israel. What Yehuda said, what Likud members say in general, is that they're undermining. What he said is, what you sort of lifted your eyebrows when he said, yes, the investigations are hurting the Prime Minister.
That's right.
But what he implied was that the investigations are actually meaning to harm the Prime Minister.
30-second response.
I don't think I said
That's
the investigations.
the
Investigations are tiring us. We've heard about number 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. I don't know. We're 20,000, whatever. If we find if they reach some kind of conclusion, whatever they reach, I give them total support. Meanwhile, we have a country to run, and we can't sit and wait and waste our time.
I wish the Prime Minister ran this country. I wish he did.
Okay.
Oh my God, I so wish that he had some attention to running the country. If there is something that he neglects, is running the country. That is, to me, his biggest sin.
You spoke to the Prime Minister 2, 3 o'clock in the morning,
I see the Prime Minister, and I see the results of his actions, and the last thing he does is run the country.
All right, we're going to move on to our last topic. That is the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh to the United States Supreme Court. Let's kick off with a remark by President Donald Trump after his nominee was approved by the U.S. Senate.
You have a lot of women that are extremely happy, a tremendous number of women, because they're thinking of their sons, they're thinking of their husbands and their brothers and their uncles and others.
I'll start with you, Merav. That was the president saying that a lot of women are very, very happy with the confirmation of Brett Kavanaugh. This confirmation that you saw, I'm sure you watched it closely, and the way the president has reacted to it, what message does it send to women?
I cannot avoid making the comparison to the hearing of the confirmation in 1991 of Clarence Thomas
and Anita Hill.
Exactly. And it was so much better. I know the outcome is very sad that he was, after all, confirmed, but Anita Hill was alone, standing in front of 20 men only, no women. She was humiliated, she was bashed, she was scorned, she was like really dragged through every possible mud. Dr. Ford received a completely different attitude. Dr. Ford came across, even to Republicans, as credible. She got empathy. Even when they did confirm the Judge Kavanaugh, despite of what she said, they made sure to say, we do not doubt that she went through this. We want to believe that it was someone else, actually. So there is huge progress for the state. Not enough progress, unfortunately. There is a fight. This is a huge backlash against the feminist fight and against the Me Too movement, and that is men, privileged men, fighting back.
Yehuda, I want to ask you about a different topic, about the midterms that are coming up. Israel has become a very partisan issue in the United States. Democrats feel less concerned about Israel, more critical of Israeli policies. If the Dems take over the House, as some polls are saying now, just the House for now, maybe even the Senate, would that be something that concerns you?
First of all, I must remark.
We only have 30 seconds. Go ahead. Okay,
but first of all, I think that women have made great progress in the past few years, past several decades, and it's great that sexual harassment is something that should be removed from the table, and I'm happy that the world understands that. I'm also happy that a person was not lose his job because of a complaint which are still in doubt about, something that happened 3 to 4 decades ago, and that's also something we have to respect.
Okay.
I'm very sorry that in the past few years, the past 2-3 years, in the United States has divided itself. We used to have a double partisan relationship with Israel, and Israel was the best allies of the United States. Okay, I'm very sad that some of the Democrats are losing that because of the left propaganda of the BDS around the world, who are trying to.
That's all the time we have.
Being liberal.
I want to say thank you. Thank you, Gleik and Merav Michaeli. Thank you very much for coming on the Spin. Good to see you.
Thank you for having us. It's a pleasure.